Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Right now, get free FedEx shipping when you go to ring.com/knowhow. And by iFixit. You can fix it, and iFixit makes it easy with free step-by-step repair guides, high-quality replacement parts, and all the tools you'll ever need. For $10 off your purchase of $50 or more, go to ifixit.com/twit and enter the code KNOWHOW at checkout.
Today on Know-How, an Nmap primer.
We're going to show you how to hack cars.
Your questions, our answers.
Know-How. It's the Twitch show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
And I'm Bryan Burnett.
And for the next as long as it takes, we're going to show you some of the projects that we've been working on so you can take them home and geek out on your own. Bryan, we've got a start of a new era, a trend in Know-How episodes where we're going to do
perhaps a themed
episode. We've been doing it sort of the shotgun approach because we wanted to have a little something for everyone.
Right.
But well, trust us on this. This is going to be a good thing where we try to develop a topip a bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
We're gonna focus, laser beam focus some knowledge.
Maybe not that much. Shotgun focus. Laser might be a little too tight.
Okay.
But this is going to be more of a security theme. A lot of people have been asking us about Nmap. It's a security port scanner. It's something that everyone who's ever done any sort of network administration has in his or her toolkit because it's free. It's fast, and it works incredibly well. It's one of the very first tools I pull out of my toolbox after I start with like ping and IP config.
Okay.
But before we get to that, there was one topic. We talked about it a while back, probably a year and a half ago, when it was first revealed that the government was using Stingrays or stingers or dirt boxes.
Which is the name for those fake cell towers that broadcast and intercept phone calls and things.
Yeah, well, it's a man-in-the-middle attack. And we've talked about man-in-the-middle attacks before here on Know-How. We know what it means. It means you get something, a piece of software, a piece of hardware, or physically a person who intercepts your traffic and then passes it on. And so that it looks like your traffic's making it through. It looks like you're connected, but in reality, there's something in the middle, a man in the middle who can hear and copy everything you do.
Well, that's the big point of this story, isn't it? That beforehand, law enforcement agencies claimed that they could only receive phone numbers and things like that, but they can actually listen, which was suspected, but they never admitted.
This is like one of the biggest surprise, not really a surprise things. And they were saying, well, we get around the whole idea of illegal search and seizure because we're not actually listening to your call or collecting the data. We're collecting metadata. You've heard that a lot. We get your metadata, which is, well, where are you? What time did you call? Who did you call to? That's all we're collecting.
Right.
Totally not, no.
And it's a wide net, too. It's not like they're focusing on one person. It's like everyone who comes by that tower.
Right. Now people who have watched my Enterprise show, they know that I actually do err towards the side of giving law enforcement and the government the tools they need to do proper maintenance. I'm a system administrator, right? So I'm like, well, they should be able to use the same tools that I use. But for them to outright lie and say, no, we can't actually listen to your calls. We can't actually see your data. That was bunk. And some papers were released just this week that shows that wasn't even, they weren't even pretending part of it was true. It was completely false. Not only can they collect calls and data, text, basically anything that you send through the system, but as you mentioned, one of the biggest concerns for people is you can't target this at a person. If you have a warrant for a person and you're trying to listen into his or her cell phone, and that's fine. I mean, you have court order, great. You're getting everyone. everyone in the vicinity. And there's no way to stop that. That's the way that cell technology works. And that's just, it rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
Well, and then the other part of the cell technology is that it can actually jam 4G and 3G channels, forcing a phone down to 2G, which is, I guess, open.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier to track that phone.
Well, they have to, because 3G, 4G, they're encrypted.
Right.
Right? Which, if they're encrypted, it doesn't do them any good. 2G was not. They didn't think about encryption back when we had those old 2G networks. So they figured out, well, all we have to do is blot out the 3G and the 4G signals. Your phone will drop to 2G, and now it's as if you're sending information over the internet in clear text.
Right.
Which we've all seen on the show how easy it is to intercept that. So yeah, it's a pain in the butt. Now there are a couple of things that you can do. We will be showing a few on Know-How as soon as I get it cleared with legal. Because
I knew wasn't there a way of detecting if you were connecting to some sort of Stingray?
And it's a little piece of software that was written by some of the people that we interviewed at Black Hat. Actually, the same people who found the bad USB. Do you remember them, Karsten Knoll? Yeah.
Oh, God.
So they wrote a little piece of software called Snoop Snitch. Now, you can go ahead and get it from the Google store. Actually, you may not be able to do that anymore. You can download it and sideload it. So we're going to have to show you sideloading. There's a couple of problems, though. It only works with a particular chipset, and your phone has to be rooted, because they need root access before...
That makes sense.
Yeah, anything. That will tell you if you've been connected to an ISMI catcher, a dirt box, a Stingray.
Right.
If you don't have that, if you can't do that, if your phone's not compatible with that, what you can do is just watch. If you are in an area that normally has really, really good coverage, and suddenly
you start losing data,
you're losing data, and your calls are dropping, and like it's acting so wonky. Why is that?
Weird.
Yeah.
Or you hear a third person while you're calling someone. Like, did you just cough? I thought I heard you cough on there.
I will say I did a quick war drive around San Francisco, and in just the 15 square blocks around my neighborhood, there's 4 dirt boxes.
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking, wait, what?
Wow.
That's not good.
Well, the thing that's scary, too, is that they don't need a warrant for any of this.
Which, again,
there's not a lot of oversight with this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like we have a system. You're supposed to follow the system. If you suspect me of doing something, you need to follow law. Otherwise, what are we doing? All right.
No, they're Batman. They're like Batman of search and seizure of cell phone data.
Because I'm Batman.
Right. We're not the law enforcement you wanted. It's the one you deserve.
No.
Oh.
No. All right, but let's get off of that, because it's really easy to go down the rabbit hole. You know, again, I want to balance what law enforcement needs and the privacy that we demand, but that's a discussion for a later day. Let's talk about something a little else, and that is Nmap.
Nmap.
And literally like Nmap.
What is Nmap?
Nmap is an open source network / security tool. So remember when we were doing the camera episodes, and we explained what ports are, right?
Right.
So you have your IP address, and your IP address might be 192.168.1.2.
Right.
And inside that IP address, you have ports, 65,536 ports, well, minus 0, that you can access. And every single one of those ports can listen to or speak to a particular service. For example, FTP is on port 21. Your HTTP traffic, so your websites, are going to be on port 80. A lot of security protocols, like SSL, will come over port 443. Like my cameras, I typically set them up for port 8000 or port 8001.
Right.
It's a nice way to be able to take a single address and access a lot of different services.
Well, yeah, and just open up all your ports.
Yeah, ports are good. we wouldn't be able to communicate with ports, but every once in a while, it's nice to be able to do a sweep of your network to find out what's listening.
A little penetration testing?
Yeah, maybe a little pen testing. Now, you experienced this, because remember when you were having trouble with your Xbox and you decided the best way to make this work
was to DMZ that IP address.
Yeah, see, that would...
What could go wrong?
Yeah, that's a lot of ownage. A lot of ownage.
A lot of ownage. Because does it really stand for the demilitarized zone?
It does. It does.
And that just, it opens everything.
It's outside. Think about it like you have a wall.
Yeah.
And then you're putting it outside the wall. You're saying, hey, have at it. Go. I don't care.
It was just an Xbox.
What
could happen to that?
Yeah, well, okay, we'll talk about that later. But specifically, I want to give you a very easy way to find out what's running inside your network, what services are open, what IP addresses are active, and what ports can be talked to, because that's very important in finding out how vulnerable your network is.
Cool. Well, let's dig into it, because I'm not really familiar which ports I should be wary of.
All of them.
All of the ports.
Be wary of ports.
Okay.
First of all, let me show you where to get Nmap. And Alex, you've got a link there. Or you could actually just show my computer. Just go to nmap.org. This is, again, it's free software, and it's available for Windows, it's available for Mac OS X, it's available for Linux. Find the version that works for you. I'm using Windows, but all of these commands will work for all the different operating systems, right? Okay. So what I've gone ahead and I've downloaded the latest version. Now, it says beta. Don't worry about it. It's said beta for, you know,
ever.
20 years now.
It's like Gmail?
It's like Gmail. It's always in beta. And once you download the version, you're going to have your executable file. In this case, it's just this. So it's a quick 20 megabyte installation.
Wait, Padre, you didn't read the EULA. Whatever.
I've read them all.
No big deal.
I read them all. There are a couple of things about this. If you install this for the first time, if this is the first piece of security software you've installed on your Windows box, it's going to ask you if you can show this. It's going to ask you if you can install WinPCAP. That's the Windows Packet Capture.
Okay.
It's not a virus, that's a utility. You need that. So if you are going to be using Wireshark, if you're going to be using this, if you're going to be using any piece of security software that needs to take a look at the wire, that's what WinPCAP lets you do. So yeah, go ahead. It won't work if you don't let it do that. So go ahead and install. In this case, I already have it installed because this is also the computer I have Wireshark installed on.
Right.
Now it's going to give me a couple of icons. This is the Nmap GUI. I don't use it because I'm old school. You can. So these commands will work for this, and you can use the GUI. I am a fan of the old command line because I know all the command line codes. Remember the trick I showed last week? I put a shortcut on my desktop for the command icon, so I can right-click it and I can run it as an administrator. Now you don't have to run Nmap as an administrator, but when you do, it gives you access to a couple of commands that you otherwise wouldn't have access to.
Is there any danger of doing this in administrator mode?
No. I mean, Nmap's, it's a very trusted piece of software, so I just do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean,
I trust you.
There's 4 things you could do. Maybe 5. 5 things you could do that could really script your computer with it, but you won't.
No problem. No problem. We won't show you how to do that.
Yeah. All right. So let's show you the most basic one. That's to discover all the IPs in your network. This is known as a ping scan, and the command is very simple. You don't have to be in any particular directory. I could be here. So Nmap. Actually, let's make it easier. Nmap -sp, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it the IP address of my network. I know my address for here. Actually, let me show you, because you should all know this command already.
ipconfig?
ipconfig. I'm at 192.168.1.122. That's the address of this particular computer, correct?
Right.
Okay, but what I want, really, is I want to see what's all over this network. So I'm going to type nmap -sp 192.168.
You missed that. There's an O in there.
Sorry.
And does it have to be a capital P?
Yeah. Okay. sp-192.168.1.0/24. What that's going to do is it's going to say, I want 192.168.1.x/24. That's 256 addresses.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to give me everything that's within this particular subnet. This is going to take a while to run, because what it's doing is this is sending a packet to every single address in that subnet that I just gave it, and it's trying to find out if it's alive. Is there someone who's going to respond to this? You can also use wildcards and ranges. You could look 192.168.1.1 to 50, or 1 to 10, or you could put an asterisk there and it says everything in this particular octet. Now, as we can see, it's scanned through 256 IP addresses. It's found 3 hosts that are up.
And it's scanned in 8.96 seconds.
8.96 seconds. Now, those 3 hosts are actually all on this desk. I have everything. I have a Windows 8 machine, I have an Android tablet here, and I have a Windows XP box down below, just for giggles.
Okay.
So it's a closed network, but I could also use this on like a huge network.
If I see what other things are connected to
If I were to plug this into the TWiT production network, I'd probably come up with about 60 to 80 boxes. But I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to release any information.
Yeah, which we've never done that before.
No, right. Now, this tells Nmap to send an echo request to all those ports, and these are the ones that responded back. Now, we should note that just because you don't get a response from a particular address doesn't necessarily mean
there's nothing there.
There's not a device there. I can set my devices to not echo, to not ping whatsoever. So this is a good tool, but if you've got a device out there that's been set up not to respond to anything, this won't find it.
Okay. And would you? Is there any downside to setting your machine up to not echo?
Yeah, because when I'm trying to fix things and it doesn't look like it's alive,
find it, yeah.
Right. We actually had this problem at Interop a while back. We had a box called a Centriant, which would pretend like it wasn't there, but then would also pretend like it was on a bunch of addresses that didn't actually exist, and so it would just use up your resources. It was basically a honeypot, which is fun.
Yeah.
Except when you actually try to fix the network and you've got all these false readings. So you could do it. You most likely fake yourself out.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if there were things you wouldn't be able to connect to then if you weren't on a network with the echo, but I guess it doesn't matter.
On my network, yes. Unless I can ping you, you can't use my network. But again, that's for another day.
Something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so now I know how many hosts are on my network, right? I know how many clients are connected, not including the box that I'm using right here.
Right.
But what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and find out, well, give me some more information, because this is how security works. Little bits and bytes of information. So I'm going to use another command, nmap dash, there we go. Well, sorry about this. SL, there we go. And then I'm going to use the same thing, 192.168.1.0/24. What this is going to do, it's going to query for network names. So the first one just told me what is there.
And that just said there's 3 things on the network.
Correct, correct. Now this is actually looking through, and it's trying to say, okay, are there any host names that are being reported to me? And it's scanning through these particular addresses, and it's going, oh, I scanned, I didn't find anything. And that's because on this particular network, I've blocked out the host names.
Oh.
Yeah, and I did that because I don't want those being found.
Those host names to pop up.
Right.
Okay.
But if your network isn't set up that way, what this would be doing is it would be reporting back the network names that you've set up on those devices.
So it would say like Brian's MacBook Air or something like that.
Well, whatever. So you have a field. Like, for example, here, let me show you this. Go really quickly, go to this. So I have a network name that gets reported. This particular one is called, wait, where'd they go?
Is it? No, that's the model.
No. Oh, actually, I hid it.
You hid that too? Jeez.
You know, I forgot this is my security computer. Okay, but like this one is called test. So if I had not set up my network not to report network names, this one would be coming back as test.
And I'm going to assume most people's networks would come back with the host names. Yeah. You've just gone through the trouble of hiding.
Yeah, I forgot to turn all that off. That's actually a boo-boo on my part. Sorry about that. All right, so now we need to, let's do a little bit more. We want to identify particular devices. So I know already that I've got certain devices. I'm going to go nmap and then 192.168.1.1. I know that this address exists because that's my gateway. How do I know it's my gateway? Because if I do an IP config, it actually tells me. My gateway is 192.168.1.1. I can find out exactly what is open on a particular address. So far I've been scanning ranges. Now I want to scan a specific host. So nmap 192.168.1.1, and it's going to run across all of the ports. And see how quickly that happened. It's telling me I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 open ports, 53, 80, 515, 9100, 9989. Now this is a very important screen because this tells you what services are available. I know a couple of these. I know 80 is going to be some sort of web page.
Right.
Right? Now I have to worry about 53, 515, 9100, and 9998. Now, Nmap is trying to match that port with a service.
Right, so domain,
the domain,
HTTP,
correct,
printer.
Jet Direct and Distinct 32, whatever that might be.
Okay.
But it's only doing that by port. We're going to show you in a video a little later that you can also, a lot of people try to hide services under known ports, so you think it's something else. But it's giving me its best guess as to what is open. Now, this part is what you want. Because when you start scanning your network for open ports, you have to be asking yourself, well, why is 9998 open? What does that do? Because if it's not something I need, it should be off. It should be closed.
So when we were at Black Hat, this is the program that they use to find the open port on the car, right?
Yeah, no, this is a fundamental tool.
And it was like IRC was the port, I remember. And they're like, why would there be an IRC port on a car that is open? And then that's what they use to get into the car.
Right.
This all is making sense now.
Here's another fun part. So I know that I've got these ports open. If I was to attack, I need to correlate these ports with a particular operating system because I need to know, well, do any of these ports give me access to something I can overflow? Because if I can overflow a service, it means I can gain remote exploitability to that box.
Okay.
So there is another Nmap command, nmap-o 192.168.1.1. What this is going to do is it's going to scan that port, scan that address, and it's going to look for the type of operating system it might be running, because it gets enumerated. In this case, look, it responds. It's telling me it's running the Linux kernel 126. Now, this is important because now I can look through my database and say, oh, Linux 126 had this nasty vulnerability that was never patched, especially since this is router firmware. It's probably not been updated. And if I now know that there's a vulnerability in 126 on port 9998, I know exactly how to be able to overflow that. I know exactly how to be able to gain exploitability.
Okay.
Right. Now, this is all inside our network, but I can run these ping scans on the internet. In fact, way back when I was still a youngin' and growing up, and this still happens, you would run huge ping scans across entire subnets in the real world. I'm only doing it inside this network.
Right.
But like for example, I worked with Interop. We had like 2 Class A's, 12 Class B's, a bunch of Class C's, just a lot of IP address space.
Right.
We were always getting these Nmap sweeps, looking for open ports, and you would see the progression. They'd sweep. Then they'd zero in on a particular address, then they'd zero in on a particular port, then they'd enumerate the OS, and then you start to see attack traffic. I mean, it was clockwork.
Right, almost like an algorithm or something.
Yeah, it was an attack script.
Yeah,
it was a script. It was someone. This is the other thing. Nmap is a non-script kiddie device, software. I mean, you can be used by script kiddies, but most script kiddies will use something like Cain enable, or they use one of the, the attack packages that does all this for you. But this is great for people who actually want to know what's happening, what's going on underneath.
So you can hide the host name from Nmap, but you can't hide the OS that is on the network from it?
That's incredibly hard.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you
not
can.
Not worth the trouble,
you
I
can.
guess.
It's not really. Yeah. But okay, so hold on. Some of the other things that you can do, this will look for particular devices that that might have vulnerabilities. I'm going to go back to my old standard. I think, let's see, 1.121, right? And
now you're just pinging that address?
Yeah, I can't remember what devices are open right now. Let's do an Nmap again. 168.1/24. I'm just going to do the whole thing. That's going to take a while. But while that's running, one of the things that I really like about using the Nmap tool is that it forces you to think about how the network is set up.
Right, because first you sweep the IP addresses, or you just find out how many machines are on the network.
Find out how many machines are on the network. Find out what IP addresses they exist at. Maybe their host names. And like, for example, now I'm going, oh, this one says Bryan. I bet that's Bryan's machine. I'm going to zero in on Bryan's machine. I have the IP address for Bryan's machine. Yeah. Let me do a port scan of Bryan's machine. Oh, he has these ports open. Let me check what operating system. Yeah. Oh, he's using Mac OS 10, but it's 3 versions old. Oh, Mac OS 10 had a vulnerability on that particular port. That particular port happens to be open. Now I know how to get in. So this is standard affair.
If you're like a network manager, this is the way you have to think.
This is how you have to think, right? Okay. Because you look through your network for vulnerabilities. I mean, yeah, you could use this for attack knowledge, but this, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to give you a piece of software and the basic knowledge that you need to be able to secure your own network. You should everyone here, no matter what operating system you're running, you should be running an Nmap sweep against your own network.
Yeah, I haven't done that.
Yeah, no, most people haven't, because most people haven't heard about Nmap. But do it because it's one of the basic ways to secure your network. Actually, another thing that you'll find, compromised computers will often have a new port that's opened. So, for example, my father's computer in Las Vegas, he got a virus called fake SecSen. It's a fake security scanner, and it opened up port like 13 something or other. Because it was listening, and it was listening for command and control traffic. Well, I did an Nmap scan. It's one of the first things I do when I drop on a new network. I do an Nmap scan just to see what's out there.
Right.
And I knew, oh, that port's not supposed to be open on that particular computer. He's got something. And so before I ever had to run any sort of security scanning software on my dad's computer, I knew there's something wrong. That port shouldn't be open on that computer. I jumped over, sure enough, it was fake sex scan. I ran the Microsoft malicious software removal tool.
Found it.
Done.
Okay.
Yeah, so do it. Do it. You know what, this is going to take forever. There are two other things I want to show you. The first is the ability to take all of the information that we've been getting here and push it to a text file. This is actually kind of important because you want to be able to keep records. One of the things that I do is I always keep a baseline of my network. So when I get it just the way I want, I'll do an Nmap sweep, full Nmap sweep, which will take a while, and I'll push all the results to a text file. That means that I can compare that to that later on. So a week later, if I find out that there's 5 more ports that have opened, I haven't changed anything on the network.
Like, that's weird. That 13 whatever port wasn't open just last week.
And I actually have log. I use Splunk, so I have log tool software, which will actually tell me if it changes. So if it does the change, it'll go, oh, these 3 entries have changed.
Right.
Should you be worried about that? But I can do this. So let's do the Nmap again. So Nmap, we're going to do the 192/-v 192.168.1.1, and then I'm going to do this. Let's say, oh, sorry, that way. Test.txt. What it's going to do is it's going to give me a verbose, that's what the V stands for, a verbose report of a Nmap scan against 192.168.1.1, and it's going to push it into a text file called test.txt.
And it's just going to go to your C drive?
It's going to go to my C drive. Let it do it. Okay, so it did that. Now, if I go to my C drive, boom, so there we go. So this is a nice way, so rather than trying to copy down all the text that's popping up on the screen, there you go.
That is cool.
Yeah, and so again, we're not doing anything super advanced here because we shouldn't. You should get used to these commands. Ping sweep, port sweep, OS checking, enumeration, and then mapping to files. Get that done, and then in a future episode, we can show you some of the more interesting stuff because you can do some incredible stuff with Nmap. I mean, really. They have, every year at Black Hat and DEF CON, there's always at least one session on advanced techniques with Nmap.
I was going to ask, would you use Nmap at all for those contests that they do, like the capture the flag stuff?
They demand. I mean, seriously, no. This is. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating here. This is in everyone's toolkit. If you do network security, you have this because it is so fast. It is so small. The footprint's so great, and it will give you so much information off the bat. Remember, they had that little table, the sort of the capture the flag light.
Yeah.
You would use this. You would absolutely use this. The Capture the Flag light at DEF CON, they actually gave you a box. It was like an Arduino box with an Ethernet shield, and you had to break into it. Well, this would be the very first thing you did. You would run an Nmap scan against it, and you'd say, oh, look, port something is open. Well, let me enumerate the OS. Oh, it's running Linux kernel, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, what exploit is there that I can use to try and get in there?
There you go.
That is cool.
There you go. Now, we will give you more Nmap goodness. In fact, we've got a video from Black Hat that's going to show you a practical use of Nmap. This is not all pie in the sky. This is not just in your home network. This is, again, something that real security professionals use on a daily basis. But before we get to that video, you know what, Brian? I'm in the security mood.
Yeah, I was going to say, we kind of have the security theme going. Might as well continue that.
Let's continue it.
With Ring.
With the Ring Video Doorbell. Now, the Ring Video Doorbell, if you've never watched any of the shows I host on Twit TV, you may not know what it is. Otherwise, you know that it's this. This kit, the seemingly innocuous kit,
this
is
little guy.
Peace of mind. It's this little guy. Now, this thing is not just a doorbell with a wonderful tone, right? It's actually a security system for your home. It's caller ID. Now, they do give you everything that you need to install it. The tools, the drill bits, the screws, even the level so that you can secure it properly. But with this Ring Video Doorbell, they also give you 2 ways to power it. The first way is through this plate, which will take the wires that connect to your current doorbell and turn it into voltage that the Ring Video Doorbell can use, or you can just charge it with that little micro USB connector. It's good for a year.
Right.
Now, once you're charged up and once you're installed, what it will do is it will connect to your home network, and anytime someone rings the bell, or if they come into range of the motion detectors, it will notify your phone, no matter where you are. My parents used this when they were on their 30-day cruise around the world.
Right.
So, I mean, that was the weirdest thing, to have them answer the front door when they're 2,000 miles away, 3,000 miles away. But, you know, that's exactly what they did. In fact, let me show you what the Ring Video Doorbell application looks like. I've got it here on my phone. I'm going to go ahead and load it up. Oh, wait, which way do you want to go? Come on, little phone. Stop doing that. And this was, okay, so this was a call that I got a while, oh wait, that's me. Okay, so this was me in Las Vegas. I was kind of hanging out in front of the Ring Video Doorbell. I was doing my thing, you know, it's,
you planned this out, huh?
I was playing, yeah, well, you know.
Were you watching yourself on your phone?
It was so meta. I was watching myself while I was dancing with myself.
Yep, here comes the view.
Watching and dancing with myself. How about that?
That's pretty funny.
Okay. Oh, now we're getting the feedback. Okay, let's get out of there.
Yeah, a little bit of an echo there.
But that's what it does. It allows you to have this wonderful interface into your front door. And I gotta say, I'm a little worried about my parents.
Right.
They live in a nice neighborhood, but unfortunately, it's one of those
retirement area.
It's a retirement area. A lot of people, they go out to the club during the day, and they leave their houses kind of.
Well, and during the day is when people come by and ring the doorbell to see if you're there.
Exactly, and if you're not there, they start peeking through the doorways and through the windows, and next thing you know, there's actually been a break-in on both of the houses on either side of my parents' home. And this way, we know if someone's peering through the front door. We know if someone has come by 3 days in a row just to see if someone's home. So,
and you have a picture of their face now too.
I got a picture of their face. In fact, I was thinking about I wrote a little script with a Raspberry Pi that intercepts the traffic from this, and I kind of wanted to put a screen on the door so that
they
it
can
shows
see themselves.
them. Yeah,
yeah, like this
mean,
is what we see. This is
like,
how wide it's a really wide field of view.
Yeah, for most people, like, oh, look, we're such geeks. But anyone who has bad intent will be like, oh, by the way, yeah, we got you on video.
Right.
FYI.
Or it's your neighbor stealing electricity.
Which, by the way, cost us a lot of money. We had to talk to our neighbor because the Ring Video Doorbell caught him stealing. He was plugging in his air conditioner on our outside outlets while my parents were gone.
And then I think your dad was talking to him over
he's like, what are you doing?
the doorbell. Why are you putting the cord into the wall there?
The funny thing is like, oh, Bob, I was gonna blow the leaves off of your driveway. It's like,
there's no leaves in that driveway.
It's the desert. But yeah, folks, we want you to try the device that Time Magazine called one of the best of 2014. And right now, you can prevent burglaries before they happen by going to ring.com/knowhow for free FedEx shipping. That's ring.com/knowhow. With Ring, you are always home. And we thank Ring for their support of Know How. Hey, Brian.
Yeah?
You want to take a little trip back to Black Hat?
I do.
Yeah.
We have a little video here?
Yeah, this was a video. It kind of changed the game. This was the start of two fantastic careers. Both of these researchers have since been hired by actual automotive manufacturers.
As they should have been, probably prior to this.
A long time ago. But let's take a look at how you use Nmap to hack yourself a car.
So, you know, a lot of people think about remote attacks just as this, right? There's telematics, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, tire pressure monitors, all kinds of stuff. We focused on the Wi-Fi and the telematics systems because I don't know, we felt that would give us the best shot for a win.
So basically, there's lots of different ways that cars take input from the outside world. These are some of them. As time goes on, there'll be more of those. So that's the first bit of remote attacks is you got to get data to the car somehow.
Yeah. And as we found out, the chips that do that wireless data piece don't usually, or at least in our case, did not do communications with in-vehicle networks, so CAN bus stuff, or LIN or FlexRay, any of that. So you have to figure out a way to get from that remote piece to the piece that communicates with the car, right? Two separate pieces, that's sometimes a hard problem.
All right, so if someone tells you they can remotely hack your car, and then they say something like, oh, and then you could just do brakes or something, they might not realize that the second step is like really hard and tough.
And when we first started this, I think we were under that assumption as well.
Totally,
right?
Yep.
But now we're smarter. Real quick, jailbreak. Charlie gave you a teaser last year of the jailbreak during our talk, right? It was a great way for us to learn about the system, dump binaries off, do reversing, sniff traffic, basically everything you want to do when you're trying to hack a system. Invaluable. This absolutely, positively is not required for what we're talking about today, just to make that very, very clear. But, oh, I did the video. I know Max.
So here is just what the effect of jailbreaking your car. So now it says, if you can see on the screen, it says jailbroken.
Yeah.
So normally it doesn't say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, like if I want to remotely attack some car in California, I don't have to get there with USB stick and jailbreak it. You don't have to do that. But for us, you know, to find out what files there are and play around, it was useful. You want to go? Sure. Okay, so we talked about all those different remote attack services, and the first one that we wanted to look at was Wi-Fi, because that was something we kind of understood, where like Bluetooth we don't know too much about, and like tire pressure monitoring systems, like I know nothing about. So we wanted to start with something that was kind of familiar, and we started with Wi-Fi. So this is the screen that you get for Wi-Fi, and you'll notice that by default you get WPA2 as your security. So I should mention that the Jeep and some other cars, they offer up a Wi-Fi hotspot, so you can sit in the back seat and get on the internet.
The kids can be on the Nintendo DS going grandma's
It's pretty
house,
sweet. I really like it. In order to do that, you need to have this password to get on WPA2. So if you want to attack a car over this like Wi-Fi hotspot that it generates, there's a couple problems with it. One is that it's not on by default. You have to pay for it, and it's quite expensive, so like 35 bucks a month. I bought this for like a year. So, you know, you're welcome.
You're welcome, everyone, for Charlie paying 300 bucks.
Yeah, Uconnect or Harman, whoever gets that money, you're welcome.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is not many people are going to buy this. And even if they did, if you did find a car where it was on, you'd have to figure out how to connect to the WPA2 network, which is like non-trivial. So we'll still talk about that a little bit just to show how it would work, because for a while this is the only way we knew, you know, how to attack the car. So the first thing that you'll see is this is the reverse engineering of the way that the password is generated for the WPA2 system. And you'll see that they'd call time on null, and then they figure out a random password link between 8 and 12, and then random characters from like lowercase to uppercase ASCII and numbers. So there's like 60 of them or something, 62. So the point is you get this really long password that's random, and you can't just guess it very easily.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to guess, and even if you're cracking it, you know, you're not going to be lucky doing it.
Right. But the fact that they based it on time means that there's really only one password for every second that the car would, you know, that second in the time when they would have turned the car on. So if you can figure out what time, the very first time you turn the car on, then you can have a pretty good guess of what the password is. So I looked, and it said I turned my car on January 1st, 2013, 32 seconds. And so what that means is when I turned my car on, it didn't know what time it was. It took 32 seconds for the like Wi-Fi thing to kind of like get going, and then it created the password from that. And so,
yeah, I was going to say, you could imagine cars coming out of a plant, right, being turned on, and they're all have a very small subset of passwords.
Right, so you would expect maybe there'll only be like 10 or 20 different passwords in reality. So you can run an Nmap scan of the Wi-Fi hotspot, and you'll see there's a bunch of open ports. The one that we care most about is port 6667, which Nmap says is IRC.
We were pretty stoked. We're like, sweet, this thing's running IRC. This is awesome. Great car. Love it. Join Pound Hack.
Right. I was like, I knew this car was cool, but now I just really love it. So it turns out it's not IRC. It's something called dbus.
If you want to own 1.4 million vehicles, there's 4 lines of Python. We wanted it to be sexier. That's it.
Yep.
Right there.
So yeah, so you can see this is 4 lines of Python, like he says, and at the end it invokes the execute method, and then you specify what the command is. In this case, it's like netcatting shells and stuff.
And the nice thing is they have like netcat and all those good utilities already on there for you, so you don't even have to do it.
Yep.
They're already there for you. You just invoke them.
So remote root shell, 4 lines of Python.
Bling.
All the Jeeps. So that's it. So here's some of the stuff we could do. You can make the windshield wipers come on with like the spray. It was like hard to see what was going on. Of course, we did that to poor Andy Greenberg. All right.
As you see, we tested the turn signals. Just skip the turn signals. No one wants to see that.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah, no one wants to see turn signals.
Speedometer.
Yeah, that's all right.
It meets your goal.
Yeah.
So here I'm doing 70, but if you look, my speedometer says
drops to 40. And you'd be like, I swear, officer, I wasn't speeding.
Right.
Look at my speedometer. I have a camera on it.
All right. You can do locks as well. So here I am pulling up. I'm going to get out of the car and lock it and walk away.
You should hear the beep when he locks it.
I swear it just beeps. Yeah. But anyway, then we'll fast forward here a bit.
Then I sent the command to unlock the doors over the cell network because the car stays alive for quite some time after you turn it off. Unlock the doors, and I can get my coffee back even though Charlie locked it in there.
Cheers.
And then listen to me. Oh, you missed it. But I acted like I was a thug who was like, what are you doing in my car?
Yeah.
But anyway. And then here is what we actually did to Greenberg that got everyone all upset. Here's where you make the transmission stop functioning. So I'm giving it full gas, I'm in drive, but it won't go anywhere. I'll try reverse maybe? So I try switching gears, it's still, I'm just stuck. No, I'm stuck. All right, so those are normal CAN messages. You can also do diagnostic ones. Again, like check out our old papers and stuff for the difference between those. But here's the brakes not working, which is what we put Andy in a ditch with. Yeah. We don't put ourselves in ditches.
No, that's for Greenberg.
So Chris is trying to stop here, but you can see he's still actually moving.
Yeah. Nothing. So we think if we did enough research, we could do those at speed someday, but that's for a later day.
So I'll skip over how you do the more complicated attacks, but here's the effect. So here is controlling steering.
So I'm not touching anything?
Essentially, it takes the ECU offline, then we send messages pretending that we're the ECU, picking up where the traffic left off. That way it'll listen to only our messages, and its messages won't be...
So I'm driving his car from remotely.
Yeah.
And if you'll listen...
I'm gonna go right next to it.
So I'm gonna drive next to a pole.
Parallel park it.
Okay. Here we go, I'm gonna loop right by it. There it is. Oh no, it's a little tight. There we go.
So I'm trying to parallel park.
So I almost hit the pole, but I didn't. So anyway, you can control the steering pretty well. It's pretty awesome.
Braking the same way. Take the ECU offline.
Let's go reverse.
Send the message. The car will stop without someone pressing the brakes.
So, brakes. All right, so should we just like book it through this?
Yeah.
So we disclosed it in October. The cool thing that happened was after the Greenberg story happened, not only did they eventually do the recall and have fixes for the thing, but Sprint blocks port 667 traffic now, so you can't get to even the cars that aren't patched, which is like super awesome.
Yeah, that's the biggest fix, is Sprint not allowing you to communicate on that port.
Yeah, there you go.
Good job.
That's good. So right now, there's no cars we can hack.
Yeah.
That was actually a big thing for them. They wanted to be able to show that good security researching, and by the way, remember, they did this as a hobby. That wasn't their job. It is now.
It was just like the thing they did on the weekends because it was their side project.
As a goof, right. This is like, oh, this is the know-how group. This is like, oh, you know what, let's hook something up to this and see what happens. What happens if we ping sweep this?
Right, and they made a point too that they were just two guys doing this as a hobby. If they had been this was their job and they were getting paid a lot of money to do it, they probably could have done it a lot sooner.
Now you may remember was it last week or the week before, Walt Mossberg ran a story about car hacking, and he said, oh, you know, this is so overblown. It's like you needed to have a jailbroken car, and you couldn't do it if you didn't have physical access. And it's like, wait a minute, no. The only limiting factor that they kind of pointed out was that when you sweep the Sprint network before they patched that port, was that it was hard to identify a single car unless you knew what that car's VIN number was. Exactly.
So like if you're trying to mess with someone you knew, it would be a lot harder to find their individual car, but like they could sweep, you know, everyone's car.
Now we should say that whole first part of the video, the process, that was just to find the vulnerability. So they didn't have to come in through the car's Wi-Fi, but they wanted to get in through that end to see if there was a connection to the CAN bus, which would give them access to all the electronics of the vehicle, and that's why they used Nmap. Once they got in, once they were able to break the WPA2 encryption, they were able to see, well, what is available, and they found that 6667 that just happened to be a demon that was listening for messages. And once they figured out how to format the messages, they could take over the car.
Right, but Padre, I bought a car, it has that stuff, but I don't use it, so not a problem, right? No. Okay, this is one of the most quoted, that's not a problem, because I don't turn on the hotspot on my car. Well, yeah, but no, because imagine, think of this. If you decide to activate your service, does someone have to come over to your car and physically turn something on or plug it in? Now that you say that, no.
No, they can do it remotely, which means they have a device that is listening. It's listening for a connection that they can make to say, hey, this driver just paid for his or her subscription, go ahead and turn on all these features. That's sort of the next generation. People are starting to poke at that connection to see is there a vulnerability? Is there something they didn't patch? Did they leave a port open? And how would they scan for the port? Oh, Nmap, how about that?
Well, I think Alex had a pretty good solution. He's just going to keep driving his 20-year-old car.
Yeah, you could do that. If you've got no electronics in the car, they can't hack the electronics.
No problem.
Just do that.
Easy, Padre. I've got electronic windows.
Oh. Oh, no.
Although there are those OBD connectors that come with a SIM card.
That's right.
And people have plugged those in.
Okay. You know what? I wonder if we can do that. All right, we'll try that next. All right, now we will be getting to some of your feedback. We wanted to look at some of the questions and actually a cool project that y'all had. Bring it on to Know How. But before we do that, let's go ahead and thank the second sponsor of this episode of Know How. Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
We have to take stuff apart a lot, don't we?
We don't have to a lot of the time, but we like to, yeah.
We like
absolutely.
to, yeah. You could take things apart with a screwdriver and a hammer.
I have in the past, and it wasn't pretty.
It's not pretty, it's not elegant, it's not the way to do it. Now, if you want to be professional, if you want to do it right, if you want the devices to work after you've opened them up and hopefully upgraded them, you need to get the right tools. And thankfully, we've got iFixit to give you just that. Now, iFixit is the place to go if you want to find the professional way to do things. Now, not only are they known for giving you high-quality tools, but they also have the repair guides to go along with it. Now, this right here, this is the brand spanking new Repair Business Toolkit. It is an all-in-one, completely packed, fully stocked repair station on the go. Inside, you're going to find the Protech toolkit that both Bryan and I love so much. 70 tools to help you dish sweet repair justice on that busted device. You've also got the magnetic project mat to make your repairs efficient and make sure that you don't lose those tiny screws and bits and pieces that tend to wander all over your know-how desk. You've also got a portable anti-static mat, a Protech screwdriver kit, an eye opener, which helps you open up those eye devices, heavy-duty suction cups, because, well, you need that if you're going to be pulling screens off of tablets and phones, a digital multimeter, lots of extra plastic opening tools, cleaning tools like a dust blower, a screen cleaner, microfiber cloth brush, and all of it is organized in a custom iFixit messenger bag that can carry both your tools and any of the little parts you need for those repair gigs. Now, this is the all-in-one toolkit to kickstart your repair business with a complete arsenal of tools. This giant bundle is available at a steep discount over the regular price. Now, if you were to buy all of these tools separately, not including the messenger bag, it would be about $350, but they're offering you this entire kit for $249. That's right, $100 less than buying everything separately. Buy it for yourself, for a new employee, or give it as a gift to that special geek in your life. And best of all, iFixit has those guides and tutorials to help you put all those tools to proper use. You can fix your friend's cracked iPad screen, swap the battery on your neighbor's iPhone, build or upgrade your laptop or PC. The possibilities are endless with the Repair Business Toolkit because, well, it's really only limited by your imagination. Now, here's what we want you to do. We want you to fix it with iFixit. And when you visit ifixit.com/twit, you can save $10 off any purchase of $50 or more by entering the code KNOWHOW at checkout. That's iFixit, and use the code KNOWHOW to save $10. And we thank iFixit for their support of Know How.
Now, Padre, I'm a little suspicious. You took that to go do B-roll, and I haven't seen it since.
Back to work. Back to work.
Oh, next segment? Next segment?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what happened to it. It's all gone now. It's mine. Yeah. No, but we do have some feedback, and we wanted to answer a couple of your questions. And again, we wanted to stick it on sort of the networking/security theme because we are doing a themed episode. What's the first one, Bryan?
All right, this one comes from Dominic Valentic. Hi all, I've been catching up on all your shows and came across the one about bad USB. Has there been any more development on the issue since then, or should we still be super scared?
Oh, Dominic, no, it's all been settled. It's all been solved. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we fixed it. Don't worry. Keep your head in the sand. Don't think about it because I am getting scared again.
Yeah, see, this was the thing about bad USB, and we reported on this. Remember, this was from 2 years ago, Black Hat DEF CON. Knowles and Karsten Knowles and Yells figured out was that USB has a fatal flaw. And the fatal flaw was that you have no visibility into the firmware.
Right. And once the firmware gets flashed, there's nothing you can do.
Well, imagine this. If you contact a USB device and you ask it what it is, there's a piece of software that's responsible for reporting to you what it is.
Right.
If that software gets owned, then the piece of software that's reporting to you what it is the piece of software that's owned. Why would it tattle on itself? That's essentially what bad USB is. Unfortunately, that wasn't just a thing back then. It is now. There is no way to gain visibility into a USB device unless you physically desolder the chips and put them into a programmer, which nobody does.
Right.
We haven't talked about it because you were right. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's just really scary.
Well, and I've always been suspicious of USBs. Like, you'll go to these events and people, like, or you go to Black Hat or DEF CON and people are like, here, have free USBs. Don't worry about it. And so I was always a little wary of just plugging random USBs into my computer to begin with. But I mean, this could be your keyboard. This could be a mouse.
A printer.
A printer, yeah.
And, you know, the script that they showed, it could install malicious software that then infects other USB devices. So, I mean, like you, I used to have a special computer. I had a Linux computer that all it did was anytime a USB device was plugged into it, a USB flash drive, because I got a ton of them from conferences, it would reformat. It would wipe everything out, no matter if it was in a hidden partition or anything. That doesn't work anymore, because if someone has compromised the firmware, I have no tools to let me know that that firmware has been compromised.
I guess all you could do is plug it into a machine and then just watch it and see if it's pinging something outside.
And that's what they said 2 years ago, which is the only way to find this is to look for behavior. There's no way to look for a signature, unfortunately. So, Dominic, should we still be worried about bad USB? Yeah, we should. Do we? No, because it's
I just don't want to think about it. Yeah. There's nothing I can do. It's out of my control.
It is one of those things where I guess we're living with this now.
Yeah.
It's like when you get old. You know, you get old. When you're young, you can bounce back for anything. You get old and you get that creak in an arm, and you're like, well, I guess I've got that for the rest of my life.
Yep, my back hurts today.
This is that
creak. It's going to keep happening.
Bad USB is that creak in our bodies, our cyber bodies.
I don't want to think about it.
All right, let's not think about it. Let's go on to the next one.
All right, this one comes from Jonathan Turner, and he asks, my new place is about 300 feet from a park with a dedicated RC area. So, how difficult would it be to temporarily extend my Wi-Fi from my apartment to the park? I might be able to get direct line of sight if I mount the receiver on a pole. Would I get enough reliable throughput to stream video from the park? Any tips or recommendations?
Okay, this is actually a good question. We get this a lot. We've got this exact kind of question in our group probably at least a dozen times over the last 2 years. And at some point, we will dedicate an episode to this. It's just we did this very early on. We had sort of a Wi-Fi extension.
Right.
We'll do it
on
up
a winery.
Yeah, in the winery. We'll do that again. We'll show it off. But the answer to your question is yes. There's a lot that you can do, especially if you're playing in the 2.4 gigahertz range, because 2.4, unlike 5 gigahertz, does have some penetrating power. 5 gigahertz is great. We love 5 gigahertz because it's not as crowded and it does tend to have higher throughput. But the problem with 5 gigahertz is it doesn't penetrate anything. Remember,
2.4 is better for that.
Much better. Well, the lower the frequency, the greater its penetrative power. So 2.4 can go through walls. It can actually go through glass, usually, sometimes. It'll go through leaves with some difficulty because the water in the leaves will actually attenuate the signal. 5 gigahertz gets blocked by basically everything. Which is why your 5 gigahertz signal is never as strong as your 2.4. But let's show you some of the options that you have. Your question was a little vague because you said you wanted to stream video from the park. I don't know if that means you want to stream video to your laptop or if it means you wanted to
straight from the quad to
the internet.
It would make probably more sense to go from the quad to the laptop and then shoot it to
the apartment. That's a bit more difficult because you have to remember, even if you use a great antenna like this this Yagi that I keep bringing up because I love this. This thing is absolutely fantastic. By the way, thanks to my my friend over at Simple Wi-Fi. Again, I got this at DEF CON. This thing has been used in so many projects, and it works incredibly well. Imagine if you have an antenna like this, which is a nice antenna, but this is sending out energy in 360 degrees, right? It's in every direction. And anytime I take energy, a certain amount of energy, and I spread it out over a wider distance, I'm going to get less energy per degree around this antenna, right? So what this does, this Yagi, this narrows the beam. So I'm not sending it out in 360 degrees. I'm actually sending it in a very narrow azimuth, right down the barrel. So it makes it directional. And since it's directional, and since it's the same amount of energy, more energy is making it down that line of sight, right? So this would be pretty good. For 300 feet, this would definitely make it 300 feet. Here's the thing, though. The more directional your antenna, the more you have to be in the sweet spot. So if I'm aiming this at a particular area, if I'm over to the side here, I will get nothing. I will get none of it. Maybe a tiny little lobe. Versus this will hit everything around me. Right. So first of all, consider that. When you're thinking line of sight, can you put yourself in a spot, like the same spot every time, where you will always have that direct line of sight at that exact angle to your antenna. Because if you can, that's perfect. That's great, because you can have sight to sight.
And that, yeah, it's exactly what you want.
Right. Here's the other problem. Communication's bidirectional. So if I've got this antenna, A, it's allowing me to pour more energy down to a specific spot. B, it's making it more sensitive so it can receive energy with a bit more sensitivity. But if the antenna on the other side is just the typical crappy antenna that you get on a Wi-Fi antenna, it might be able to receive. It's probably not going to be able to transmit really well. So
could you hook up another antenna to your router to beam back to you?
Yes. So what I've done before, I have to use 2 Yagis, but they have to be absolutely stable.
Right.
And you can get some great throughput. You probably can't do that because you have one side is going to be moving. So you may want to consider an antenna like this. This is a panel antenna. It is directional, so it's pushing out the front of the antenna, but it's not as directional as a Yagi. So if you had this aiming at one particular spot in the park, you know where you have to be sitting, and you have this and you kind of aim it back at the house, you will probably get a decent connection. And you can put a signal meter on your laptop and see, like, okay, as I move this up and down, does my signal go up, does it go down, where should it be?
Okay. And could you, remember we did that cantenna?
Yes.
Did you build a cantenna for this?
Cantenna would work too. Yeah. Cantenna would work too. As you said, you have line of sight. So if you can get line of sight, that's always better than trying to blast a signal through any sort of material, no matter what it might be. Something else to consider is if you've got a little bit of network experience, consider moving from TCP to UDP. We talked about TCP, the difference between TCP and UDP. TCP it's a stateful connection. So it establishes a two-way communication, right? So I'm talking to you, you're talking to me. So I say, hi, Brian, and you say,
hey, Padre.
Well, you would actually say, I've received your message of, hey, Brian, and I'm responding with my message of, hey, Padre. And I would say, I've received your message of, hey, Padre, and I'm saying, what's up, give me some coffee. And you're saying,
I received your message of coffee, yeah.
So that's basically how TCP works. UDP is very, very different. UDP basically just says, oh, hey, Brian, last week I went over to here and then I did this and we worked on some projects and then I flew my quadcopter into a ditch and then the ditch exploded.
That's a lot to take in.
And you get some of
it.
Right. But the nice thing about that is even if you're losing bits and pieces of the conversation, it's still coming. Right?
Oh, okay.
It's still coming.
It doesn't wait for that
doesn't
handshake.
Wait. There is no stateful communication there. Okay. It's just, you ask for this stuff, I will give it to you.
I didn't even ask for it, and you're still just going on.
UDP, if you can handle the loss, if you don't mind losing some packets now and then, UDP is actually a very efficient way to communicate if you've got a really bad bidirectional communication.
So in terms of video, though, losing those packets, that's just going to make the video kind of flutter and cut out and stuff?
Cut out, which would happen way more if you were trying to use TCP.
Okay.
All right, cool. All right, let's go ahead and let's show a little candy. One of our viewers actually made something nice.
So this comes from Brian Murphy, and he said, just a quick snap of what my cheap tablet is used for. It's a dash mounted on my Land Rover and connected to a cheap Wi-Fi OBD2 reader. I have, and great for keeping an eye on the engine when towing trailers. That's,
I love this.
That's cool.
This is exactly why we did the cheap tablet episode, because yeah, you know what, a cheap tablet may not be the nicest experience, but if you're only asking a very narrow set of features from it, it can be perfect, exactly what you're looking for. In this case,
that's cool.
He's got one of those little OBD2 connectors, so he's plugged it in. It's interfaced with this tablet, and now he can look at engine revs, temps, everything you get from that bus.
That's such a nerd thing too. It really is. I love that, because the only other car I can think of that would have that normally is the GTR, the Nissan GTR. It's basically like Gran Turismo on the dashboard. You can see all the torque figures and stuff.
If I had that car, I would not drive it fast, because I would always be going, oh, look at this.
You wouldn't even be looking at the road, just be looking at the monitor. Yeah.
I'd ask you to drive so I could play with
the screen. Yep,
yeah,
me too.
That's the Geek Live.
Thanks for sharing that project.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Now we know that this has been a long episode, and it wasn't supposed to. We were supposed to be about 15 minutes.
How do we do that,
project? We gotta stop doing that, Brian. We're supposed to keep getting the episode length down.
I know, right?
Dang it. But before we go, we wanted to give you a little bit of a parting shot, because I know that with a lot of the things that we've done here, it can seem as if, oh well, that's inaccessible. That Nmap stuff, the security research stuff, that's only available to people who know exactly what they're doing. Not really so much.
You can have absolutely no idea what you're doing.
Yeah. Hey, Alex, let's go ahead and make them
What
feel
happens when
better.
it goes wrong?
Yeah,
You
this
end
is
up with a
sad,
Jeep
sad
Porsche.
days. So yeah, so
It was covered under warranty every time, which was the best part.
yeah. I mean, you know, one thing I gotta say for Chrysler is they stand behind their product.
Hey, they are. That's for sure.
So yeah, every time that we would mess up, this happened twice, that if you mess up flashing the V850, then the head unit just doesn't work anymore. And so the first time what happened was I was flashing it, and like you can't, like there's no like output that's going on. So it was flashing, I didn't know what it was doing, and I was like, fuck this, I just turned it off. It was like half flashed and never came back on again. Don't do that.
In the audio from
And the real upgrade mechanism doesn't let you do that. It has safety. I have no safety. I was driving with my seatbelt off. Yeah. So then, yeah, again, I take it to the dealer, and you know, they're like, "What happened?" I was like, "Yeah, the like screen doesn't come on anymore." So you remember last year? I don't know if you came to our talk last year. We showed this video where we were trying to get the automatic collision prevention system to engage so we could capture the packets. And the way we did that was, sorry, I gave away the secret there. The way we did that is we got some cardboard boxes out and we drove into them hoping it would stop us. And
That didn't work.
it didn't work. So, like afterwards, after the talk, everyone kept coming up. You idiots, like it only works on metal. Yeah. It's like, oh, so this year
Let's
we're
get
like,
ourselves some metal.
yeah. So here is the side view footage.
It got a little bit loud. And
Once again, the collision prevention system did not work.
this is out front of his kid's school, by the way.
Yeah, having metal did not make any difference at
Didn't
all.
make any difference. So if you're gonna get metal, don't try it. We tested, doesn't work. Save
Right.
yourself a couple $100.
So, folks, if you're going to do this kind of work, you're going to make mistakes, and it's totally okay. This is how you build up your skills.
Yeah, it's, I think they said too, somebody was watching from across the parking lot. Like, what the
are they
heck is
doing?
going on? Why are they running into trash cans?
There's actually a clip, because they had the camera set up on a tripod, and people were coming by and like staring at the camera. Like, I've never seen a camera before. What is that? Oh, my
I think
goodness.
the best part of that whole presentation too is like as they're going through the presentation, you see how much research they really put into that, and that was a lot of work, because all you ever hear is the headlines of guys hack into car, you know, and you imagine just like a dude on a hoodie in front of a keyboard for a little while. But it was like they put in a lot of time doing the research, and then they ran into
and a lot of error.
trash
And
cans.
that's the greatest part. I love that. That is the hacker ethos, which is I'm just gonna keep throwing stuff against this, and at some point maybe I'll have a eureka moment. And I'll promise this: if you haven't seen the entire presentation, it's worth a view. It's a great view. I think there's a couple up on YouTube. If you can't find the entire Ballecer and Miller presentation on YouTube, let us know in the Google Plus group. I actually have it. We taped the entire thing, and I will put it up on our YouTube channel. So just let us know, and we'll give you a clean copy.
They're really good presenters too. They're a
incredibly
couple
good
smart, funny guys.
Yeah, and we actually got a behind the scenes. So we recorded the big presentation, and then we actually sat down with them, and we got a bit more of the dirt. So how about that? Well, folks, I'm sorry. That's all the time we're way past time for this episode of Know How. We do want to make sure that you go over to our show page, because what can they find there, Brian?
They can find all our show notes, and that's at twit.tv/KH. And there'll be handy links there, because a lot of this stuff we go over, if we're doing a project or a build, you're going to want to know where to find that stuff on the internet, and that's where to go.
And we've also got the links for Nmap. We've got the commands that we use for today's episode. So go ahead and just try it out. Again, it's totally free, so you should be going to twit.tv/KH. Go ahead and download a couple of episodes and take a look at our show notes.
But that's not the only place that you can find our projects and community stuff.
I've heard about this Google Plus
thing.
The
Google Plus group. Yeah, that's where we pull our feedback questions from, and you can show some of the projects that you've come up with, like our last feedback that we did.
And when we have time, we'll show them off on the show.
Yeah, please submit.
Yeah. Also, if you don't like Google Plus, you can also find us on the Twitters. You can find me at twitter.com/PadreSJ.
And I am at cranky_hippo.
And our director, our fearless director, who did this entire show with one hand, by the way. That's right. And you know, he gets, because of that dedication, he gets his real name, Alex Gumpel.
Is that his name?
That's his real name.
Man.
Thank you, Padre.
How about that? And he is at ANELF3, an ELF3. Go ahead and follow him and make sure that you give him some props for doing the show.
It was good having him back today because as good as Josh did last week, he accidentally threw the rain on me and set me on fire. So
it's when Alex does that, it's on purpose.
Yeah,
I noticed.
exactly.
Whoops.
Oh,
yeah, there we go.
It's really hard.
I noticed he left the chair a lot higher, so I'm cut off. There, 'cause,
so you just left it like that.
Nuts.
It's not easy to do one-handed, is it?
No, you need two hands.
There's a lot of reaching back and forth going on here.
I'm not going to say it.
Well, we should probably end on that.
Yeah,
on that bomb.
Yes, please.
On that bombshell, I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
And I'm Bryan Burnett.
And now that you know how,
go do it.